We know that there's context for words. And when you say in proper context, this word to buddies and people in this, whatever, it's not a problem socially, and it never has been. And Mark might shake his head, but I bet you in high school, he was calling half of his friends that word, and they were probably calling it to him back. Why? Because it's funny. That's why it's funny.
Andrew Wilson destroys this woke black beta, crying about Andrew Wilson using bad words in this debate, as Andrew Wilson torches the woke left, crying and canceling people who say the wrong thing, which triggers this black activist, showing exactly why progressives have become feminized. Let's get in.
Andrew Wilson, it was very interesting when Tucker jumped me with this, because I wasn't aware of the case. So I was doing Tucker's show. We had a 90-minute chat about all sorts of things. The main premise of his conversation was that my country's gone for the dogs. I was defending it vigorously in some parts and agreeing with him in other parts, as I would America, by the way. Good and bad, but two great countries. However, when he went on this rant about this, it took me by surprise. I didn't not say this F word because I thought I might be arrested. I wasn't aware of the story. I went and did some research, and I discovered somebody had actually been arrested in my country for using that word in a text message. She says, being beaten up by a guy, having treatment in hospital, and texting somebody that she believed had been partly responsible for her getting the beating. And that beating has not been properly investigated. So I don't know enough about that part of it to determine how clear-cut that all was. But regardless, the idea that she could use that word in a text message, and the next thing, 11 police are banging on, not even banging in, they're coming in, and she's having a bath, naked. Absolutely extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, it's actually, I'm not even surprised. So the idea here is, I guess you could get SA'd, and if you call your assailant the quote F slur, you go to jail, right? Some country you got there. By the way, let's point this out, that progressives have for years, as these guys say, hey, we don't want to put in hate speech laws and have people arrested and this and that. They've been doing the same type of stuff for years. They do depersoning, debanking, deplatforming, keeping people away from their cash. If you touch on any issues that they don't like, they've been doing that for years to conservatives. So they're doing the exact same thing that the government over there is doing. They're just using the private marketplace to do it. So what they do is they will go on these massive campaigns to deperson a human being from society because they have wrongthink, or they say a word that makes somebody else upsetty spaghetti, right? That's what they do. And the fact of the matter is like, who gives a shit? Who cares if this woman didn't care? Who cares if she was like, you know what, I am homophobic, and I said it because I'm homophobic. That's her business, right? You can say what you want. You're supposed to, at least in free nations, and that's not what you have there. And that was Tucker Carlson's point. You don't have a free nation there. You have a nation which is under a dictator.
Hang on. Out of interest, Andrew, would you use that word?
Sure, you use it all the time. It's one of the best ways to describe friends. Right?
Would you use it? Would you use it on a show like this? It's
not meant to be. Look, it's not meant to be. Can I say it?
Would you say it? I mean, would you normally use a word like that?
Well, I wouldn't say it for the purposes of TOS, but I mean, if I was allowed to, sure, it's one of my favorite words to say. There's nothing wrong with the word. What happens is this. This word is not even being used as a homophobic slur, and it hasn't since I was a kid, okay? That's the truth. People call each other this all the time for literally for fun, just because it's fun. You'll go, you like run into a buddy of yours. What's up, F slur? Right? You don't care, and you give each other a high five.
I don't think that's true,
right?
though.
It is true. Look,
no,
listen,
I think if you ask gay people, they will tell you it is often used in a derogatory way and offensive way intended to demean them. And it's done all the time. I don't think we can dispute that.
But you know what? Everything. You can use any word as derogatory if you want to, or you can use words and they're not derogatory. It depends on the context. And we're social creatures. I'm tired of people acting like socially everybody's retarded. We know that there's context for words. And when you say, in proper context, this word to buddies and people in this, whatever, It's not a problem socially, and it never has been. And Mark might shake his head, but I bet you in high school he was calling half of his friends that word, and they were probably calling it to him back. Why? Because it's funny. That's why it's funny. And
were
it's
you
a
Mark
way that
Lamont
men
Hill?
So here's
Let me know down below if you agree with Andrew Wilson that that term is more used to describe, friends and other people rather than, actual homosexuals. Because, well, two things. First of all, Piers Morgan's country, the UK, has gone so far left. Andrew Wilson is exactly right. Literally, there are people getting arrested for using the wrong verbiage or slur to describe their assailants, even rapists, right? When they use the wrong term or call them, Muslim or whatever term that they use, they get arrested for offending the person who raped them. That's how far woke the UK has gone. It is insane what is going over there and is brewing civil war. It's just absolutely lost its effing mind. And to what Andrew Wilson talked about, using friends. Look, honestly, in my entire life, I have had more friends and straight guys use that term as, a poke, a joke, something like that between each other than actually using it against a gay person. But I've worked with so many people because you get this between guys when we work in, the gutter, the muck, the dirt. You got to know this guy's not a soft pussy. And how do you know? How do you know that? If he can take a joke. That's how you know. And then you poke fun back and forth, and then it's fine. And then all right, well, if I can joke around with this guy, I can work with him. That's fine. Like then we can do the job, and it's not going to be bad. It's not going to be a pain in the ass. He's not going to be weak. He's going to work well. We're going to get the job done and just keep it going. Like, guys use this as a mode to poke at one another and make sure they're not a bitch and a pussy. That's what they use it for. And I've heard that used more in my entire life than ever to actually refer to a homosexual person. And that's my opinion with Andrew Wilson. Let me know how you feel about that. But I can't. It's been a long while since I can think of anyone that I've actually physically watched that's used that against anyone in today's society. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you think, and hit that like button and notification bell if you're enjoying the video. And if you want to help support the channel, check out the link down below in the description, and let's get back in.
Was I? No, but
You've never used any
certainly people in
derogatory
my high
term
school-
at school about anyone as a joke?
You're asking a different question now. Then okay,
Well,
now you're
just
asking
generally.
a different question. His question was again. The answer to the first question is no. I didn't use the F word in high school as he alleged. Second question is, have I ever used an offensive term? Absolutely. When I was a child, but as an adult, I like to think that I've grown beyond using the words that I used as a child. And I agree that social context matters. And I agree that we should always consider social context. We live in a society where gay people are still abused, where gay people are still slandered, where gay people are still physically assaulted, where gay people are marginalized. And that F word is used very often to do, and it's often accompanied by harm. And so if we know that, I agree, when you walk up to your friend and give him a high five and use that word, you may not be attempting to smuggle in homophobia. I don't think you are. But what I'm saying is we're normalizing a word that still accompanies harm and still kind of normalizes what we do and how we treat as a society, LGBTQI folk. And so I'm just saying,
Okay.
why don't we pick a different word that doesn't cause all of this hullabaloo?
All right, the bigger issue.
The problem is like, because they're not as fun. And the reason is, the more that you try to make these pushbacks, these social pushbacks, and tell people what they can and can't say, it makes them want to say it more. And you know it, Mark, like that's what happens. The second you start making social pushback and say, hey, this word you've been calling your friends and you guys have been joking around for years saying this stuff, you're not allowed to say it anymore because now somebody's going to get too upset about it. It literally gives them incentive to say it more. That's what happens. That's how social context actually works.
But that's not what I'm saying.
If you guys wouldn't make a big deal out of it, if you guys wouldn't make, hang on, Mark, almost done. If you guys wouldn't make a big deal out of it, we wouldn't have a big deal, right? But you guys make the big deal out of it.
All right, Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, I swear, Mark Lamont is always just crying and whining about something. But this is what progressives do. They've been feminized. They've been emotionalized. They cry and, bitch about anyone who says the wrong word or talks about the wrong thing. And seriously, like, gay people are still marginalized? Seriously? Like, we've got rainbow flags in schools well, not as much anymore, but you remember when they were literally everywhere. They were in Target. They were on football helmets. They were in football games. They were in commercials. They were, literally everywhere. In schools, you had DEI. Marginalized? Seriously? Like, no, they're not marginalized. they're the minority, a very small minority who gets more attention and more popular, focus and, media than anybody else. They're not marginalized at all anymore. And that's what people have figured out when they've been trying to pump this into society and say, everybody should be gay. That's not a marginalized community. But yeah, Andrew Wilson is right. Context matters. And that's what progressives really don't care about. They've killed comedy. They've killed speech. And finally, we're turning the tide to where we can actually have some free speech back instead of being deplatformed, debanked, and like everything else that they tried to do to literally anybody under the sun who wanted to speak against the Matrix. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought about what Andrew Wilson had to say, completely destroying this woke black activist in this clip. Thanks again, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.